This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Get ready, pal.
Turkey, 'cause it's good.
Celebrating today, not only Thanksgiving, but some wins. I think some good news. We're going to try to. It's not a feel good Friday exactly, but it feels kind of like a Friday because this is, about to enter the holiday. So we're going to try to keep it light.
The Wednesday before Thanksgiving is as close to a Friday as you're ever going to get without actually having one.
You want to hear something embarrassing that I did this morning? Sure. I was running around my house like a crazy person trying to find a red shirt. Because, of course, we usually wear red on Fridays to remember everyone deployed. And I forgot last week, so I had to be sure that I didn't forget this week. And it was about 10 minutes into my frantic search, I said, hey, wait a minute. It's Wednesday.
But it feels like a Friday.
It does.
It feels like a Friday. Well, I think this is good news. We got a deal on the hostages. Hannah, do you have that audio up? Maybe.
Under the U.S., Qatari, and Egyptian brokered deal, we understand Israel will receive 50 hostages, women and children. In exchange, Israel will then release 150 Palestinian prisoners. Now, the hostages, as we understand, will be freed in groups of 10 to 12 at a time over a span of 4 to 5 days.
So, good news. We wanted the hostages. They've been negotiating essentially for 5 weeks to get some of these hostages out. My understanding is there are 3 Americans that are getting released, a woman and I think, or 2 women and a child. And, there's a lot of questions, though. If we release 50 hostages, then we think that there's, approximately 190 other hostages still left behind?
Something like that. Quite a few, needless to say.
240 is, I think, the number they used.
So you're down to 190, give or take, assuming they're all alive.
We think. And then also, so there's a couple of deals that come along with the hostages. 5 days, I believe, of basically a ceasefire, which is what Hamas wanted, right? Which is what we're hearing a lot of people call for. And then there's an incentive for every 10 additional hostages they release, they will give them another day of ceasefire. Apparently, Mark's kind of rolling his eyes. And then, so a couple of things for, I guess the ceasefire will allow for humanitarian aid in an area where it is needed. However, I worry, we're incentivizing them and saying, hey, is that not an incentive to take more hostages up front because then you have more negotiating power?
Anytime you negotiate for hostages, it's an incentive for more hostages. I mean, we got the 6 people back from Iran and it cost us, $8 billion or $10 billion, whatever it was. I mean, that only encourages Iran to do more of it. This is only going to encourage Hamas. The reality is the only reason Hamas is willing to get rid of, one, took the hostages and now is willing to get rid of them is to protect themselves. It has nothing to do with anything else. They want a ceasefire, and it's not for humanitarian reasons, and anybody who believes it is foolish. It's to be able to retrench, rearm, and prepare for the next part of the battle.
Well, and I'm not an expert in this field, but I've been listening to a lot over the last day, and folks who are really watching this closely, folks are asking, hey, does this pause mean anything for the future of the conflict? And the folks that are in the know say absolutely not.
I sure hope not. I mean, they need to wipe out Hamas. It's the only solution to the problem. I think this is going to make it harder. It's not going to make it easier, but they have, the Israeli government from day one said one of their top goals was to get their hostages back.
All right. So good news, bad news this morning on that.
Yeah, I think that's a mix.
Okay. All right. Other good news. We got a big win in Utah. There was a special election going on in Congress, and the candidate there on the conservative side was really kind of a Trump candidate, and pulled off a big win. I think a huge win.
Yep. One kind of walking away out there. Now, I think she is, if memory serves me, replacing her boss. So it's not quite like an insurgent running in a primary or into a general election, but it's
a win.
They've got 5 congressional members from Utah. One should be the woman in the group, which is kind of interesting because for a long time there was what was her name? Was it Mia Love? That was a short-term congresswoman from Utah, black Republican congresswoman I think she served one term or maybe two, and I think that's the only woman that they've had out of Utah in Congress, which is kind of a little odd when you think about it.
Very Utah-like.
Well, we haven't had a lot of celebrations post-Election Day as of late, so I'm going to chalk this one up as a win and celebrate. We also have a lot of folks in mid-Missouri celebrating an annual event. Brian, what's going on this morning?
Well, obviously, good morning, John, and good morning, Stephanie and Mark, and happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there a day early. As all of you know, a annual tradition that takes place in Jefferson City the Wednesday morning before Thanksgiving is the Cole County Prayer Breakfast. That'll be going on this morning. Hard to believe it's 44 years. There's already cars lined up at the Missouri Farm Bureau. They expect to have 250 people in for this event. Rod Smith will be the master of ceremonies. Governor Mike Parson will be delivering the keynote. Ballpark about 7:30. I did talk yesterday to Kelly Jones, who's the governor's spokesman, and obviously we'll let the governor give the details on it. But I can tell you two main things. Number one, obviously he's going to talk about the importance of giving thanks. That's really a main emphasis. But also he's going to talk about the fact that Cole County and Jefferson City, specifically Cole County, remains strong. It is the Cole County Prayer Breakfast, and he's going to talk about some things, obviously, about that this morning. But basically, anybody and everybody in Jefferson City, in addition to just regular folks that want to go, the mayor will be there, Ron Fitzwater, all three county commissioners, Senator Bernscatter, Representative Veet, Representative Griffith will be there, and it will be...
And it is a sellout, the chamber wanted us to point out.
Yes, it is a sellout, and it basically, there will not be enough places to park. But you're absolutely right, John, it is a sellout, but it is a really big deal, and that's a tradition, and it gets almost bigger every year.
Well, and speaking of traditions, I saw some photos yesterday of my friends in Columbia visiting a very special place. When did that turn on, Brian?
Well, that will be the magic tree that would be at the Columbia Crossing Church, which is just off of Grindstone Parkway. Now, there are other trees that are on. Technically, the magic tree that is in the Columbia Crossing parking lot at the Crossing Church off of Grindstone, it'll be Liz and Scotty that help light that. That'll be Friday evening at 5:30 p.m. that will be taking place, and it's a big deal. It is, you can't miss the church, and people come from all over mid-Missouri to see this, and there's still some lights over there, and there are some trees. This is the big one, is the magic tree. It's 85 feet, it's a sycamore, and they have, according to the church, I didn't have a chance to climb the tree and count them, I'm going to go with them, they said 200,000 lights are in that tree, which is just absolutely incredible. But it will be lit at 5:30 on Friday. Liz and Scotty will do the countdown from Clear 99. Everybody from Zimmer Radio, just down the hall from us, and they will have a huge crowd for that.
Columbia's very own version of the Sphere. I don't know if you heard yesterday, but the Madison Square Garden folks went to London, and we had heard that they were going to build several other spheres across the globe, and London said no, too much light pollution. So apparently Columbia is fine with the light pollution in the holiday spirit, which they should be.
Yes.
And I heard,
speaking of trees, I saw the governor's tree going down Highway 63 yesterday.
Yeah.
Big, huge tree on conservation trucks rolling down 63. I think, when does it get set up and lit? It's got to be coming up soon, too.
Well, since we have Governor Mike Parson on the air with us, it's 7:30 this morning. We will ask him.
7:10. Perfect.
7:10.
Perfect segue, John. Yeah, we have some fun guests coming up. We got Brad Jones of the NFIB. Of course, Small Business Saturday is coming up. We know everyone talks about Black Friday, but let's remember our small business owners. Really important day for them. And then, of course, the governor's coming up at 7:10. And then Mark's son joins us. You don't know, Daniel used to play Mizzou football, went to Mizzou, but has relocated to Florida. So what's it like for a young person to live in the free state of Florida?
Free state of Florida, working for Governor Ron DeSantis.
There you go.
We'll see how that works out.
All right, so that we are looking forward to that. Now, Mark, tell me more quickly here. What is going on? We got a couple minutes. What in the world is happening in Nevada with respect to 2024? The Journal is telling us it's basically a dumpster fire.
It is, well, having worked out in Nevada for the elections in November of 2022, Nevada is the dumpster fire. Let's just start with that right off the bat. They can't run an election to save their life. The Nevada Democrats, which control the legislature and formerly had the governor's office, passed a bill requiring there be a primary unless parties opt out of the primary. But when they wrote their law, they didn't create a provision that said if the parties opt out, there's not a primary.
Well, that's basically
So there's still a primary,
And there's a caucus.
but there's the caucus, which actually selects the delegates. The primary it's not even a preference primary; it's a zero primary, and there's only 3 names on the ballot. So if you live in Nevada, you will get a ballot in your mail shortly, because I think they just mailed them.
Okay.
And you could vote for Nikki Haley, Tim Scott, or Mike Pence.
It sounds like it's a pretty good day for Nikki Haley, honestly.
Well, I'm guessing maybe Mike Pence and Tim Scott might get a percentage high enough to get back on the debate stage if they wanted to get in the
there
race.
you go.
So you would literally get this in the mail. I would say, I'm all in for Mike Pence. Mail it back. Are they paying to count these things?
Yeah, I mean it's a actual primary that the state passed a law saying there would be a primary. I mean, it's just they are a dumpster fire. It's the best way to describe
that
it.
carries no weight.
That carries no weight because the caucuses is where everything will be selected. They interviewed Nikki Haley and she said something basically like, I don't even really understand what's going on in Nevada, and I'm on the ballot.
But if they count them, she could run ads or something. Be like, I got 80% of the vote in Nevada.
See this? Refreshed my campaign.
And have we heard anything from Trump on Truth Social about how he's conveniently not on the ballot? Because he's been winning. I mean, he's been litigating across several states to make sure his name stays on the ballot. He's been successful so far. But, I mean, I would assume he's pretty fired up about that.
I think they have focused everything on their caucuses. They don't really care. They understand that the solution is to win delegates, and they passed a winner-take-all provision in the Nevada caucuses. So, ultimately what will happen out there is they'll have their caucus, which is really early. I think it's in February, if memory serves me. And, whoever gets a majority will get all the delegates.
Yeah.
Which is what the Trump people have tried to push in every state that they have control.
Okay, interesting. Well, that I think it's kicking off what I'm going to refer to as the chaotic caucus process of 2024, because I think, I don't want to wish us, bad vibes for our own caucus, but Missouri hasn't caucused in a while. We will caucus this spring. We've talked to folks about what the rules are. It is going to be difficult to educate people about how exactly the process is going to work. And then I think as well, I was talking to some folks on the Democrat side, and they have to caucus, but because the caucus is controlled by the parties, their caucusing is the rules are completely different for them, down to the fact that I think we're caucusing on potentially different days. And so people who want to show up it's not like on the Saturday all voters show up to caucus. It could be 2 different days, which is going to be really confusing to people.
Historically, that's how it's been.
Well,
Democrats have caucused in Missouri on different dates previously than Republicans have. It's really, they do a weird process. They have to have fractional delegates. Identity politics plays a lot of role in Democrats. I remember going to it years ago to watch one.
They let you in the door? You didn't
as an
start
observer,
on
you
fire?
had to have like an observer. They wouldn't let you. And it was interesting because they had to have like 1/2 black woman delegate. And I mean, they literally had these requirements based upon how big the population of the county was, how many delegates they could have, and what the allocation of the delegates had to be.
Okay. We got to get back to this later because I am fascinated by the caucus process, and I know you think it's an easy thing. day. It's almost Thanksgiving, but now it's time for your daily DC rundown. We have, I think, more good news for Nikki Haley. Of course, good news. In Nevada, she's the only big candidate on the ballot that doesn't count for anything, but I think some good news.
She needs some good news after the whole social media clip of hers.
You're right. You're right, Hannah. I think she had a rough week last week. Well, we're getting some more polling data out about aid to Ukraine. And of course, from my libertarian friends, I think a lot of them say, I like Nikki Haley, but she's a hawk. But we're seeing that the American people are bouncing back just a little bit on support for foreign aid. And it's mostly among Republicans. 45% of Americans were saying the government's spending too much on Ukraine. And that is down compared to October when it was just 52%. The Republican numbers are 59 versus 69%. So in Nikki Haley's camp, she's seeing that movement saying, okay, maybe there is less opposition to funding for Ukraine. And that's been one of her big issues, right, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, she's been very much supporting Ukraine and funding and fighting the war by proxy over there against the Russians, which is, makes a lot of sense. If you can just spend money to degrade your enemy without having to put people in the ground, that's a pretty good way of going about doing it.
Kind of like how the Cold War ended.
Yeah, I mean, we fought proxy war in Afghanistan. The Soviets fought a proxy war in Vietnam. I mean, it's kind of the same way. This is how it's always been. It goes back. It goes back to ancient times. Athens and Sparta fought proxy wars. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. It's good for Nikki Haley. I think it's actually probably good policy personally. I've never understood. I am curious to change slightly just what is a libertarian's view of the world? I get what libertarianism means, like domestically, like keep government out of my business, but that's outside of my business. Why does the libertarian care what goes on outside of our country?
That's what they don't want any of our money spent outside the country, I'm pretty sure, right? I mean, they just say America shouldn't.
And the whole isolationist angle.
Yeah, but I've never heard isolationist and libertarianism as one and the same. I mean, the Republican Party has a long history of isolationism. I mean, we were the isolationists pre-World War II. We've had a long history of that. It's just, I've always been curious in libertarians. They have such a great domestic policy concept, and then their foreign policy is like, we don't want to have foreign policy. We're just an island all by ourselves.
Mark's trying to hijack my daily DC rundown with a debate. But okay, we'll get back to that. But we are on debate watch. We'll have the holiday, and then we're basically on top of the next presidential debate. That's in Tuscaloosa on December 6th, hosted by News Nation. Will be really exciting for all of the people who are vying for second place. But it's going to be a smaller crowd. I think we will get into some of these issues and get some substance. Trump this weekend is headed to South Carolina on Saturday. He will be at the Clemson, South Carolina game. He is out there despite all of his litigation woes. And then finally, I found some more polling. We'll have to ask Daniel about this later, Mark. Apparently, Matt Gaetz is not too popular in Florida. There's a new poll out, and with all of his antics in Congress, the poll surveyed 946 adults in Florida and came back and showed that 57% of Florida voters disapprove of his performance as a member of Congress. And so I like that.
I don't think the president knows how everybody is living right now, so I think
on the streets in Columbia, trying to increase the minimum wage even farther, but also mandate paid leave for small businesses. And it seems to me that if it's hard enough to find enough people to keep your store open, how do you keep your store open when you have to pay people not to be in the store?
That ain't going to help. It is not helpful. And it's always kind of been, I don't want to get on my soapbox on minimum wage, but it's always been sort of interesting to me that whenever you have a pretty good sized minimum wage increase, there's a certain number of folks that lose their jobs. If you want to keep ordering from kiosks, that's going to be a trend of the future, because those kiosks, they don't take vacations. They always show up on time. You basically pay them once, and then they do their job. So I'm really worried about that kind of stuff, Mark. Because I think we have kids that grew up, and we all had those kind of jobs that helped us in the learn in the economy.
Learn what you don't want to do for a living.
Well, in my case, that was certainly one summer. But
character building experience.
Yeah, I got all kinds of character built one summer. I blew insulation in attics.
Oh yeah,
as I like to
That's
say,
hard work.
I know I'm going to heaven because I spent one whole summer in hell already.
Yeah, we've told those stories before about me being the union concrete guy at age 17, which was hard work, but pretty darn lucrative.
Yeah, well, I know.
I was a lunch lady for a summer. It was very fun.
I loaded Pepsi trucks.
The other one I did, I taught swimming because I was on the swim team, and I had 16 students at $2.50 a half hour. That was good. Hey, that was good money. Other than you had to, stand waist deep in cold water and have little kids. But I taught my kids how to swim. Not like the lifeguards. I didn't babysit them for a half an hour. I told their parents, I said, you can go get the lifeguards if you want to, but if you want me to teach them to swim, I'll teach them to swim, and I did.
Yeah, and now not only are those jobs kind of going to the robots, but even for some of these jobs, people aren't finding the people that can work.
It's the biggest problem, Steph. I mean, it really has been an issue, and I think in our last survey. It's not like they're not trying to hire, because last month I think we had 65% of our members told us we tried to hire, and 90% of them said we didn't have anybody qualified that we could use.
And that marks your 50th anniversary of your economic survey. That's huge.
It does, yeah. It started in the 70s, and it was quarterly. It was a small business optimism index, and it started in the 70s, and it has become really, honestly, one of the most respected surveys, and it's certainly one of the most anticipated by economists all over the country. I mean, the Fed looks at it because it's kind of a so goes small business, so goes the country sort of a deal, especially if you're looking at what that survey says and then look at what actually happens in about 6 months. So it's been really good, and we do it monthly. The only thing I wish we were big enough that we could do it for every state. That would be really cool. But I think you're going to find, even state by state, it's not going to change a whole lot. I mean, there's going to be some regional differences, but we're proud of the Small Business Economic Trends Survey.
What challenges are you hearing that national NFIB is going to focus on in the next year, especially when Congress returns?
Well, I tell you, one of the biggest ones is the 20% deduction that we had that President Trump put in place. Actually, that expires in 2025, and we're already gearing up for that, because all of your LLCs, all of your pass-through companies, that's going to be, if that goes away, that is a 20% increase in taxes, basically. It's basically a 20% increase tax, because you're going to be losing it for millions of small businesses. And everybody says, you're working on that kind of early. I said, hey, you know what? This is so important that we are going to work on it early, and we're going to hammer on it until we get it done.
Really important stuff. And of course, the survey that you're talking about, I think, is also important with just advocating for, whether you're on the national level or the state level. We all hear anecdotes and have friends in small business, but having that data, I think, is so important as you continue your work for small business. So thanks for joining us. We appreciate all the work you're doing and wish you a very Happy Thanksgiving.
I love coming in with you guys.
We'll see you
Happy
back here.
I'll see you in a week.
Bright and early next Wednesday. Brad's going to co-host with us.
There
All
we
right,
go.
come armed, friends, with your small business questions next Wednesday. Of course, if you
table, okay? This is not Grey's Anatomy. We are not a teaching hospital.
Some fun Thanksgiving audio for you this morning. Of course, we are celebrating what feels like a feel-good Friday, even though it's a Wednesday.
We're calling it a Feels Like Wednesday.
Feels like Wednesday. That's
I
it.
like it. All right, so we are approaching the Thanksgiving holiday. I mean, what do you think about this? You think people actually get in giant political debates at their Thanksgiving table?
Yes. Hope so. That's what makes Thanksgiving dinner fun.
Is that what you're planning on?
Oh yeah, we always get into political debates at dinner tables. That's that's how I grew up. It's fun. I mean, it makes the dinner go by fast.
Mark, you are evil.
I haven't had anybody yet storm out of my house.
That's one of the ones the psychologists always coach. Your first words out of their mouth, don't drink too much, and let's not go to political or religious debates at the dinner table.
Yeah, we stay away from the religion, but we're pretty good about hitting the politics right out of the gate.
That's kind of the Ellingers in a nutshell, isn't it?
I'm really down on Thanksgiving. I don't like the food. I think it's just not my holiday. And I think, it's just why? I don't love it. If I could list all of the holidays, I think it's at the very bottom for me.
So is Thanksgiving also on Stephanie's suck list then?
Wow.
Definitely the Thanksgiving food.
Food and NFL, I kind of rank it up there a ways.
Yeah, but you get the Egg Bowl on at night, so you can watch college football. That's the saving grace of Thanksgiving Day, is you can wait till college football at 7 o'clock at night from Mississippi.
You know, my in-laws always do a very informal taco dinner for Thanksgiving because, they know that all the kids get so sick of going to so many Thanksgiving dinners and eating the same food at every dinner. So, tacos, it's different.
We had a coworker here for a long time who did barbecued ribs, and he got a full house. Every kid managed to make it to their house on Thanksgiving.
We do a big beef roast because I don't like turkey, and I'm not going to eat it, so I get a beef roast and cook a beef roast every year.
And my favorite is always the day after, getting takeout Chinese, because I love Chinese food. And I mean, how many Thanksgivings, Hannah, you said all the kids. John, you were saying you know someone who does lots of these holiday dinners.
Oh, we had a friend whose parents were divorced and remarried. His in-laws were divorced and remarried. I talked to him one holiday season. He goes, so far we've done 8 meals.
Oh my
that's
God.
Awful.
I'm in a very similar situation. I've got divorced and remarried parents and then divorced and remarried grandparents. So Thanksgiving isn't too bad, but Christmas is where it really gets crazy.
And that's why I thought this Wall Street Journal article this week was really interesting, and I fully support it. It said a lot of people are just saying, to heck with it, let's go on a trip. And I am actually headed out of town this weekend. I've kind of convinced my family for Thanksgiving, but my goal eventually is to do it for Christmas because it is so much. And Hannah, I feel you. I don't have all of that family, but I still end up doing so many things that I am just exhausted by the end. And I could hey, let's all just not buy Barbies and $50 gift cards and let's just go somewhere. And they say it's becoming more popular.
I've been doing it for 10 years. It's amazing. It's so much fun to get out of town. You take the kids, you go somewhere out. We've gone all over the place. It's just a great break from the grind that Christmas becomes. And I enjoy Christmas to a certain extent, but it starts in Halloween. The day after Halloween,
and
then it goes for 2 months. And by the end, I'm just tired of it. And
exactly.
You go somewhere different. You get away. You don't have to deal with the family issues. It's fun. It's great.
Are your kids okay though with fewer presents and a big trip? I think my kids would actually be, and especially maybe as they get a little bit older.
They love the big trip. In fact, that's kind of the highlight they look forward to. Is hey, where are we going this year? What are we going to do? We were talking about it last night.
And my question for you three is: at what point after you got married did you kind of start telling your families hey, we kind of want to start doing at least a little bit of our own thing during the holidays, because that's a conversation that my new husband and I have a lot.
So the
good luck.
The trick we used was, and I give myself credit. It's one of the only good ideas I ever came up with Christmas was I told the kids that Santa Claus only came to our house.
Well, he does.
And if you spent Christmas at anybody else's house, he wouldn't come and you wouldn't get any presents. Therefore, they're like, we don't want to go anywhere. We have to stay here. Then we turn to the grandparents and say, the kids don't want to go anywhere. We're going to stay here.
That's how it works at our house. So I like it. That's it. So life lessons from Mark this morning. All right, coming up next,
Saint Mark.
we are going to have the governor is joining us at 7:10. Mata, John Marsh, and Brian Hauswirth. We are also pleased and thankful to be joined by Governor Mike Parson. Governor is getting prepared to give a speech at the Cole County Prayer Breakfast. Governor, what are you feeling thankful for as you prepare for the Thanksgiving holiday?
Oh my gosh! I was sitting out here on the porch this morning, watching the sun come up and shining on the Capitol, and I think how blessed I am to be where I'm at today, and that I've been chosen to be able to do this. But it's going to be a beautiful Thanksgiving weekend for all Missourians, and I just wish them all the best for this time of year. Hope they all get a chance to kind of reflect a little bit on family and all the things that have occurred in our lives, that we all a great deal of blessings that we've had. But it's going to be a beautiful weekend. So what a great way to start off today.
Well, Governor, we're really thankful for you and for joining us. You've got such a great story, and you've got this new biography out, No Turning Back. Tell us a little bit about it. Such exciting news.
Well, I think when they first approached me about the book, a lot of times I guess the first thought you have is, well, why a book about me? You have a tendency to think that way. There's a lot more people worthy. But I think when you go back and look at my entire life of where I came from, small town, my mom and dad being sharecroppers, working for farmers from farm to farm, and kind of starting the way I did with, I would say, a very humble beginning. But to understand how important things are in life, to have a foundation of a good work ethic, treating people right, being honest, all the fundamentals that I think we all strive for every day. And then I think you just look at the challenges of life, how much your life changes over the years. And nobody would have ever predicted I would have been the governor of the state of Missouri. Matter of fact, in the beginning of the book, it talks about my mom and dad taking me. I was one of four boys, and I was the only one born in a hospital. It talked about it in the Parson book, and it kind of set home to me. But it talked about me being born in a hospital, and it said, little did Victor and Helen Parson know that they were giving birth to the 57th governor of the state of Missouri. And when you think of it like that, you think, wow, it's been a heck of a ride to be where it's at today. But it talks good and bad. I mean, I'm pretty honest in it. I wasn't no saint when I was a young man doing things. I made a lot of mistakes, and hopefully someday somebody realizes, hey, no matter where you come from or where you're at, if you work hard and you do the right things, treat people right, you never know where you're going to end up.
Governor, you talked about challenges. Bill filing for the legislature, literally a couple weeks away. Then they're back in January. What are you hearing from leadership at the State House, priorities and all, and any chance of another tax cut for Missourians?
You know what? We've been so fortunate since I've been governor in a lot of ways. I mean, there's been so many challenges we've had with all the things we've dealt with, whether it was floods, whether it was droughts, civil unrest, COVID. You could almost go down. But we've been able to do some tremendous good things for everyday Missourians through the legislative process. Whoever thinks as governor you're going to be able to cut taxes 3 times when you're governor, and especially the largest one in our state's history just a year ago. So I think we need to keep on track with that, because I think one of the things that proves to you, if you put money in people's pockets, you give them their money, they're going to spend the money and they're going to create revenue. And it is the way it's supposed to work. It's not supposed to be government just handing out money all the time. So, yeah, I'm awful proud of that we were able to do that during my term in office. I would tell you, I mean, I've been around a long time in this building. You've got an election year coming up, which is going to dominate. The budget will dominate this year's session. You've got, I don't know how many people in the Senate's running for statewide, seven or 8, I don't know how many. But the reality of anything major stuff happening, I don't know that you're going to see that. But there's still going to be a lot of issues out there we want to keep moving forward. I think we've really tried to build a foundation for workforce development infrastructure. We want to keep building on that. There's a couple of things that I think are very important that I would like to see the legislators do right off the bat. One of them is IP reform. But if they don't get that done in the first 30 days, I don't know it's going to make a difference in this year's elections.
Governor, we appreciate you joining us live, and happy Thanksgiving to you and to the First Lady. 2 very quick questions, because I know you're going to be going to the podium at the Cole County Prayer Breakfast, which is a sellout, 250 people. I talked to Kelly Jones, your spokeswoman, just yesterday, and she mentioned you'll reiterate today Cole County remains strong. I know you'll give a speech here in just a few moments, but you can kind of give us a sneak peek about Cole County remaining strong. And then quickly, if I may, Friday, you've issued an executive order. State employees, 14,000 in Jefferson City, will have a day off, as you call it, a well-deserved day off. You could talk about that as well.
Yeah. Well, I think the faith breakfast we're going to this morning that I'm speaking at, I don't know that I'm going to give anybody in the room a speech. I guess I'm more or less going to go there to talk about how important faith is in our lives and how fortunate we are to live where we live. I think that's important to iterate sometimes to everybody what it is we're doing. So today it's probably this morning it'll be about how everything I've used my faith to be able to guide and all the decisions I've had to make, how much of a part that's been across the state. And I will tell you this morning as I'm talking, as I've been governor, people come up to me all the time for 5.5 years now, and they'll be saying things like, we're praying for you for the decision you're having to make. I get letters from people I never heard of. I don't even know where their churches are. And giving you encouragement and telling you about, how important faith is. I think that's the message I want to deliver today, how important that is and how important Cole County is as being the head of the state capital and the county that where we all come here and make decisions, affect everyday lives. I think that's important. So those are some of the things I'm going to talk about this morning. I don't know if I'm going to give a speech to a bunch of people, but it'll be good to go over there. And the second part of what was the second part of the question you had?
Yeah, Governor, you issued an executive order basically giving state employees you call it a well-deserved day off on Friday, Thanksgiving Friday.
Yeah. Look, I've asked state employees to do a lot of things in 5.5 years that probably they never expected the governor to ask. And I've really tried to build the core and the foundation for state workers to make sure they know that they're not being left out of the decision process and that we appreciate the value of what they bring to the table. Look, they've been underpaid for a long, long time because of politics. And, we've tried to increase the pay. We've tried to make sure that when they come to work, they want to come to work. It's just not going there and filling the slot. And, look, we've been through some tough times, and I've asked them to do a whole lot. So, giving them a day off on Thanksgiving, I think it's a good thing. It gives them an opportunity to be with their families and, get a little recharge to them and come back because, like I said, this is just not about giving somebody a day off. It's about saying, okay, yeah, you're going to get this, but when you come back, I'm going to expect you to do a better job. And I've done that for 5.5 years, and we'll continue to do that so as long as I'm governor.
We were recently joined by John Stevens of Port Casey about his work with the Hawthorne Foundation and the trade missions that many in the state are going on, talking to folks in other countries about all of the good things going on in Missouri. You have been on those trips. What's the response that you're hearing across the globe about our state?
What you're really finding out, it's been such an exciting time, even learning that part of being governor when you go overseas and you try to promote your state. But look, I'll just tell you, it's game on when I go overseas. If you want to compete against Florida, Texas, California, Carolinas, whatever states it is, you got to go over there and you got to sell your state. You got to be prepared to say why you're going to do business here, because at the end of the day, these are smart people. These are business people, and they're not just going to come here because you tell them how much I love Missouri and the people of Missouri. They're going to come here on businesses, and you got to realize that. So the things that really matter, workforce development matters, infrastructure matters. And when you start talking about where Missouri is in the middle of the United States in today's market, one of the fastest growing avenues is distribution. And Missouri is the only state in the United States that have two navigable rivers running down each side. We're the only state in the United States where the headquarters with the Kansas City Southern and the Canadian Pacific merger is the first time in North America that you have continuous rail from Canada to Mexico, and the headquarters is in Kansas City, Missouri. And when you look what we're doing in the top 10, whether it's apprenticeships, whether it's manufacturing, aerospace, automobile, taxes, almost one of the number one state in the United States for the low cost of doing business. All of those things, when you go overseas and you start trying to sell somebody why you want to come to Missouri. And I think, and you got to add this in here too. I mean, when you meet with CEOs and companies, they really want to know what is the lifestyle for the employees. I mean, those are things they care about. So when you can talk about everything we have to offer in this state, whether it's the big urban areas, the rural areas, our lakes, our recreational side of major league sports, you just got a great thing to sell. So, look, I'm proud of this state. So going over, whether it's Tokyo or Germany or Switzerland or Australia, man, I'll go sell us all day long because I just telling you, we are doing things now that we've never seen before. And one last thing I want to add to that. I think I can say this. The Department of Economic Development always says, be careful what you say. Yeah, they always, and it's always bad when they tell me something, they say, hey, don't say anything about it. But, so here we go. So, one of the things, I just met in Kansas City about a week ago on a company we're trying to get to come here. It's a $1.5 billion investment and 1,200 new jobs. Now, we used to think those things were pretty well unheard of. We literally have 5 projects on the table right now that we're competing for that's over $2 billion investments in those states. Those things have never happened in our state's history. So, we got some opportunities out there, and for me, it's about taking care of Missouri, hoping our kids and our grandkids have got a great place to stay here and work here in Missouri, and they're not going somewhere else. So that's what it's all about at the end of the day.
Well, it's not a Friday, but we're saying it feels like a Friday. And certainly, Governor, you're giving us a lot to feel good about here in Missouri. We know you have to hop on stage. We would caution you. Apparently, Brandon had a bit of a fall and took someone down the last time he was on stage at Capitol Plaza. So if you see him, I would steer clear. But we appreciate you joining us today and wish you a very happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, Governor.
Yeah, same to all of you and everyone listening. Just happy Thanksgiving, and just don't forget our blessings. We're all pretty fortunate to be where we're at, and we just, just need to help people out. Need a little helping hand right now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. Appreciate that.
All right. Coming up next, we are going to do What's Up with Hannah.
Yes. Have you ever accidentally tipped more than you meant to?
Oh, that's a rough one. Hey.
On the money.
It's always when Mark is here. I think
Hey, we bring a little efficiency. We make the trains run on time.
someone's got to around here. Jeez. Have you guys ever gone out to a restaurant, gone to leave your tip, and maybe when you see it actually hit your bank account, you go, that wasn't the total that I thought it was going to be. Maybe it's higher, maybe it's lower. But have you ever been surprised by what that final amount ends up being?
Maybe.
Anyone?
I mean, so you're thinking maybe somebody accidentally, you either forget to leave a tip or maybe you add like an extra zero or like a number that you didn't think you were going to do.
Yeah, or in my case, sometimes I do my math wrong.
Oh, ouch.
When I go to write the total in, and I usually just try to keep it simple by doing even dollar amounts now. I've learned my lesson because it makes for easier math.
The Gen Z person can't do math with a phone, with a calculator in front of you. No, and I think we were kind of talking about it, and I think more importantly, more and more people are adding that automatic tip. And so I've gotten stuck a couple of times where they just add the 18%. I don't realize that they've already added it. Then I add the 20 on top of it, and yeah, that's...
And they do it in a sneaky way because the itemized bill that you get first before you give them your card has the 18% tip in it, but when you get the credit card slip that you sign, doesn't show that they already put the tip on it. So you're like tipping on top of the tip.
And it still has the little entry that says tip.
Yep.
Well, this one Georgia woman, her story's kind of gone viral because she accidentally tipped a lot. And she was actually entering a tip on like the little credit card machine at the checkout station. She was going to get a sub sandwich for lunch and was expecting to spend like $7 or $8. And she saw on her credit card statement later that she was charged for over $7,000
for a sub sandwich.
For a sub sandwich, it was $7,112.98, which is a really odd amount. When she got to looking at the credit card statement, she, of course, started to flip out a little bit, I think, as anyone would. And the only thing that she can come up with is maybe as she was entering the tip on the credit card machine, it might have switched to the screen where it asks you to enter the tip amount while she was entering her phone number for her rewards. So that obviously makes a huge difference. She's been fighting with her credit card supplier for almost a month now, trying to get the total refunded. The sub shop said, sorry, you're going to have to take it up with your bank. And because she still ate the sandwich that she got, it's not an easy refund of the whole amount. And, the sub shop still wants their $7.54.
Come on.
So that's been the holdup, apparently. But I cannot imagine thinking that you spent, less than $8 on your lunch, only to find out later you spent closer to $8,000 on one sub sandwich.
That is rough.
That is very rough.
I don't know. You bought a sub sandwich lately? They're about up in that range now.
Gold-plated sub sandwich. It's like going to New York and eating.
Yeah. Well, and I hate those automated things like the thing at the gas pump. You have to hit like 72 buttons before it'll just pump the gas.
Is this a debit card?
Do you want a car wash? Are you sure? Do you need a receipt? Are you really sure? What's your birthday? I don't know. And so I'm always just like hitting everything as fast as I can, trying to just get the thing to work. And so I could see me going to the wrong screen and putting my phone number in. The other thing
don't say that too loud because somebody at Ashland's going to put a tip thing on the gas pump just for you.
Well, and the other thing I think about too with these silly payment, and I've been thinking about it a lot lately because people give me a weird look, but like most places you don't have to sign anymore, but now like a lot of places, like, do you actually sign your signature? Because I don't. I just draw. And like, why are we still doing that in 2023?
It's unique to America. A lot of places.
I don't have a filter anymore. My therapist told me that I need to learn how to establish hard boundaries with people. So I will be boxing out all Thanksgiving long and in perpetuity. Oh, but that's your grandma. Oh, but that's your cousin. We're adults. Okay? Don't start nothing. Won't be nothing. Happy holidays.
Some good rules for your Thanksgiving holiday. Don't start nothing. Won't be nothing. And I think that's probably...
words to live by, counselors.
Right.
I definitely want to start something. It's going to be a lot more fun.
Come on, Mark.
You're the birthday boy, so you can get away with it.
Yes, we are wishing a very happy birthday to Mark this morning. And we're celebrating a Feels Like Friday Wednesday before the holiday. And we got some big tech news. Some people are not quite holidaying yet because, well, let's do OpenAI first. They had a wild roller coaster of a weekend, and as fast as I can scroll Twitter, it seems like there's more news every day. This morning, so as of right now,
we should go backwards. Don't even go now because it's changed so much.
We talked a little bit already about where we were. So if you missed it, so OpenAI is the company that runs ChatGPT. Obviously, ChatGPT is on the forefront of AI. So why does this matter to you? You're thinking, I don't care about OpenAI. You do because, there's two facts here, or two divisions. There's people who want to push AI and go as fast as they can. And what the board was trying to say was maybe we should slow down because AI is kind of scary. And so the board pushes out Sam Altman because he's in the fact of, in the group that says, let's keep going as fast as we can. And
Microsoft, an investor, immediately hires Sam Altman, and Microsoft stock goes through the roof as soon as they announce it.
And then all of OpenAI's employees essentially signed a letter and said, if he's out, we're out. See you later. And the board said, maybe we had second thoughts. Maybe we want to reimagine our position on Sam Altman. And as of, I think, late last night, this morning,
there's a new board. three of the four board members that fired him are gone, and guess who's back? Sam Altman.
And Greg, the president, who had originally been pushed out with him as well. So that is big news. So it's a win for the accelerators, the folks who are saying, we want to push this as fast as we can. And we're hearing about all sorts of models. And I think other people in big tech actually said, hey, people are going to die if we don't keep pushing AI, which I don't think I'm there. But they said this can solve a lot of problems for people. And then you've got other people who say, well, if robots take over the world, we're all dead.
We've all seen Terminator.
It's an ongoing.
Skynet has become self-aware.
But really, OpenAI is at the forefront of the debate of where AI goes. Will it be regulated? Are we moving as fast as we can? Are we self-regulating the company somehow? And so big news. I suspect this isn't the end. I suspect we're going to hear a lot more about this over the next week, and we'll have more news when we reconvene.
I thought one of the more bizarre parts about it was the guy who actually leveraged Sam Altman to get forced out signed a letter saying that he would leave if he stayed at the company because he thought that the company ought to go back and hire him again after he's the one who forced him out. He said, I had second thoughts. I reconsidered my position.
And the boardroom, huh?
Well, and they said, so originally OpenAI was founded as a nonprofit, and then they kind of changed, but they realized, so these are the people who wanted to hold back AI. They realized if everyone just picks up and goes to Microsoft never was a nonprofit. They don't have anybody that says, let's put the reins on these folks. And they realized, hey, if we really do want some control over AI, it's better to keep it over here rather than to hand it all over to Microsoft. So a lot of them reimagined their position very quickly. But then also, it's kind of what goes around comes around as far as the crypto world goes.
Karma is a nasty person.
The guy on the Chiefs.
Is a guy on the Chiefs. That's right, Hannah. So Binance is back in the news. Now, the last time I really heard it, I don't follow the crypto world very closely. The last time I heard about Binance had kind of blown up FTX, and they were they were competitors with FTX, so they were the first one to kind of blow the whistle on Sam Bankman-Fried, on Alameda, on all of that as the competitor, and now they're back in the news, Mark.
They are back in the news. The CEO of Binance, who was the guy who literally had the blood feud with Sam Bankman-Fried.
Whistleblower, we understand to a degree.
Whistleblower with quotation marks around it, has just pled guilty to violating anti-money laundering standards in the U.S. And Binance, which is the world's largest cryptocurrency trading company, is going to pay a small fine of $4.3 billion
Wow.
for anti-money trading. I mean, it's unbelievable that everybody knew cryptocurrency was initially designed to hide illegal activities. That was the whole fundamental underlying purpose of it when it started. It became an investment opportunity, but the companies that ran it never figured out how to get their arms around the money laundering. And now they're going to find out the hard way how you get your arms around it.
It's strange.
As it slips through your fingers.
Well, and it's strange, Mark, because you and I deal with a lot of really highly regulated industries. So certainly, anything like Bitcoin or anything with kind of that past, you have to be worried about. And obviously, like government regulators are really worried about. But I really felt like we had kind of shifted away from that perspective with cryptocurrency, and that folks were kind of accepting it finally as a normal investment vehicle. And now the pendulum has swung all the way back. And I think it's a huge blow to the crypto industry.
I think it is. And Binance is going to struggle to survive, I think, long term, because now they're going to be viewed as a felon entity, and there are going to be companies that won't deal with them. Now, a lot of the individual traders don't care. They've known what they were getting into, and they just don't care about it. They're willing to do be involved in an industry that has a very shady side, including Hamas got $100 million through cryptocurrency.
Yikes.
So it's like anything that's new and different, there's going to be some growing pains, and everybody thought the SEC was overstepping its lanes when it tried to do some regulation. I got a feeling that because of this, there's going to suddenly be a cry for regulation once again, which, there is also the side of, do we need more government in everything?
No.
Well, all the people that invested in crypto, especially Bitcoin and all, and I know there's a very active group in Jefferson City that meets on a regular basis. Some people kind of, the get-rich-quick fortune thing didn't materialize for a lot of folks on the kind of the ground floor level.
It didn't, but at the same time, the people who really got rich were a lot of people in Congress. Sam Bankman-Fried was one of the most prolific, and FTX they were some of the most prolific donors to members of Congress, to both parties, actually. And that part scares me, in that you can kind of blow up really quickly, make a whole bunch of money, give it, to all the politicians, and then suddenly everyone decides, oh, you're a really bad dude, you did illegal stuff. Guess what? That money doesn't get returned. It's still out there. That
money's gone and is never coming back.
So what stops someone else, like some crazy-haired young guy, to just make the new Binance or FTX?
Create his own Dogecoin, right?
It's all going to be out there forever. Bitcoin's at $36,000. I remember when you could buy it for almost nothing.
Yeah,
it did lose 8% of its value. I think maybe yesterday when they announced the felony convictions, but it's come back. So I think it's year-long range has gone from $16,000 to $38,000 for one Bitcoin. And so we're close to the top right now.
Almost as much of an increase as butter in the price of groceries.
Or the automatic tip on your lunch bill.
Oh, that's right. That's rough. Seriously. All right. Okay, Mark, you had flagged this article. Your son's coming on. He has moved from Missouri, growing up here, to the free state of Florida. And the Wall Street Journal had an article titled "Another New York Gift to Florida." Now, this is an issue we've dealt with in Missouri. There's been proposed legislation. You and I might disagree on this. Do you think we do?
Probably we do a little bit.
Okay. Well, this is so New York. They basically it's a local provision related to non-competes. What's New York doing?
So New York is going to ban all non-competition agreements. Now, I think where we disagree is I can't see why somebody who goes to work for a coffee shop or a car windshield repair place or a cell phone company should have to sign a non-compete clause to be just an hourly worker or even a commission worker. That doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. But if you go into certain industries, companies spend hundreds of thousands of dollars training you on how to be prepared to do work, learn their actual secrets where there are true secrets, and then they don't want you to compete against them. That makes some sense that you would want that. What New York is saying is, nope. If you work in New York, you can't be held to a non-compete clause. And major companies, particularly those that have trade secrets or invest in all that training, are announcing they're going to move to Florida.
I wonder how that's going to work with the media, because traditionally, no competes, especially in big markets like Market One, are the rule of the day.
Oh, I'm sure there'll be an exception for the big media. There's always an exception for the Democrats' friends.
I don't know about that, but I know in the past, I think it was even Travis Fitzwater when he was a rep, he had some legislation on this issue, and I think the feds recently there was a proposal, and actually I think their proposal was something that you and I could probably agree on, and they were saying, hey, we do need to protect these average workers from, because you go to start a job and they hand you a non-compete and you need the job. You're not going to say, I'm not going to sign this. The employer will say next, right? So you're really kind of you're intimidated. You need your job. You're forced basically to sign this non-compete. You can always walk away, but a lot of people need to sign that to get the job.
And are you really going to give away how long the Big Mac patties get cooked for? You know?
Exactly. So I think the Fed's proposal was, hey, no non-competes for anybody whose annual salary is less than $40,000, and that kind of covers all industries, entry-level people, and jobs in which if you're making $40,000 a year, you probably don't have the company secrets, most likely. And if you have to draw a bright line rule, I think that made the most sense to me. I don't like the feds getting involved. Actually, I think this is something we should address on the state level, but that type of proposal, I think something I could get behind.
Well, and you also love what New York is going to do, because they're going to create a private cause of action, so the trial lawyers get to enforce the non-compete clause. Just more money in their pockets.
And Mark, I would add one thing that John pointed out. He's right about the top markets like New York, but we have had traditionally in Jefferson City and Columbia, I've seen it myself, non-compete clauses. Now, I've always wondered, are they enforced? I mean, can they be enforced? And I don't know that they've ever been challenged. I'm sure they have. I'm not sure in radio, but it's not just the big markets that have those things. But you're right about Travis Fitzwater, and but he could not get a lot of traction on that bill.
So non-competes can be enforced. At least they can
Mark
be in Missouri.
and I have litigated the issue here in mid-Missouri.
The general rule is it has to be, it has to have a reasonable geographic restriction and a reasonable time limitation.
And I think in Missouri it's like 2 years and like 50 to 100 miles. It's squishy.
And it depends on what your industry is and how big. But the real reality is, for most lower paid folks, it's not going to be challenged because they can't afford the legal fees.
Right.
And if they lose, every non-compete provides that if you challenge your non-compete and you lose, you pay the company's attorney's fees. So it's really for lower paid folks. Carve out doctors and people that are making really large sums of money. For lower paid folks that are forced to sign a non-compete that aren't actually learning some type of really critical industrial trade secret, it's a handcuff. And it's designed that way intentionally, and companies use them as weapons
to make you sit out, for sure. All right, we've got to move on. But hey, let's add that to the list for our friend Brad Jones next Wednesday, John. I think it'd be interesting to get Missouri Or... And that would be all except for this, John.
Well, I do declare this gentleman, perhaps the craziest neighbor this side of the Mason-Dixon. Folks say their neighbor, 52-year-old Brian Malta of Keatone, New York, fired his Civil War-era cannon at their home. He said he was settling a dispute like Stonewall Jackson fending off the Union guys at the First Battle of Bull Run, or perhaps Second Manassas. I'm not sure. Nobody was hurt when he began his assault using only powder charges and wadding. Still, he was charged with harassment, and they seized his cannon. They say the barrage was heard miles away, lasted several days. Neighbors said it harkened back to the Battle of Gettysburg when the Confederates used 150 cannon to mow down the Union. Police said Malta had an ongoing dispute with his neighbors. Do you think? He was charged with 3 counts of harassment, 3 counts of menacing, and had his cannon impounded. There is no word. I will defer to Mark. Perhaps he was a member of the class of way back at Kappa Alpha at Mizzou when they loaded their cannon in front of the house with fireworks and blew out the windows of the apartment across the street where the Chinese students were playing ping pong.
With actually a chunk of the cannon ended up in the building. I think they got kicked off of campus for that.
I think they did. They had
there might have been some alcohol probably involved in that really genius idea.
Remember them when they used to do their Civil War ball and they all dressed up in uniform and all that?
Really?
Yep.
Now you can't do that. You'll get canceled for that.
KAs can't do it anymore.
Yep. They're called the Kappa Alpha Order.
Oh.
Yeah. Because of that whole background thing. It's really interesting.
I don't know where that tradition started with like college kids and cannons, but I know at Truman State there was a fraternity close to the football field, and they were at Mizzou it's organized and they shoot things, but at Truman it was just like the fraternity across the street that whenever the team scored they would shoot things, and I'm like, they couldn't have been sober, right?
The cannon cockers at the universities are all ROTC.
ROTC.
Yeah, so they kind of know what they're doing, but I think we should leave that.
Put an old charge 7 in the 7.5 mountain and see what happens.
In the old days, they actually had a cannon at the Mizzou games.
Yeah.
On wheels. I mean, not a modern piece of artillery like they use now, but they actually had a cannon, and it would create the biggest plume of white smoke.
Yep.
They would shoot that thing off and they scored this cloud of white smoke, and if there was no breeze, sometimes it's hard to see parts of the field.
The black powder smoke would linger over the field to the next series of downs.
I just, as much as you plan for that stuff, I don't know about that. Hannah, did you see, things can still go wrong. I was watching the latest Argentina performance by Taylor Swift. Hannah, did you see what went wrong there?
Yes, her little wardrobe malfunction.
Yeah, she totally lost it was like a heel, but like her shoe
off of her like crystal covered Louis Vuitton boot that was knee-high length.
I want to know what the price tag is on that. But of course, her show it involves a lot. Sometimes she's even running, but a lot of dance moves, a lot of other things, and she was completely at a loss with no heel. All right, coming up, we are going to have I would approve of that, I guess, if you have to do it. But
I like Mark's idea with a standing rib roast.
All right. Well, we have Mark Ellinger in as guest host on his birthday. Thanks for joining us on your birthday and waking up early, Mark. But we've also got a fun surprise. We have Mark's son, Daniel Ellinger, in the house. Daniel was class of what in JC?
2016.
All right. And he is joining us from the free state of Florida. He has left the roost, left Missouri, and relocated like everyone else in America to Florida, at least temporarily.
They let young people live in Florida? I thought it was all old retired folks.
There's a contingent of us down there. We have a good time.
So tell us what initially took you down to Florida and what you like about living in Florida now, besides the weather.
Absolutely. So I got brought down about 2 weeks after I finished grad school at Mizzou to work on the DeSantis reelect for governor in 2022. And then transitioned into the Department of Education, where I'm the Deputy Legislative Affairs Director now. And we're kind of rocking and rolling down there. We got a lot going on. It's busy. It's crazy. It's kind of the center of the conservative world. So it's a pretty good opportunity, and ton of great people down there. A lot to do. What's not to love?
I mean, you come from Jeff City, which is the center of conservatism in Missouri,
We
right?
love Jeff City.
Down to Tallahassee, another state capital. What's, for folks that have never been to Tallahassee, what's it like being a conservative in a bigger state capital?
It's not without its challenges, because like most places that have universities and state government, right, it's like Columbia and Jeff City meshed into one. So we're definitely in the minority in Tallahassee, but it's a blue dot in the sea of red. So it's you get to interact with a lot of interesting people. A lot of people come from out of the state. They want to kind of be a part of what's going on down there. So you get a little bit of everything.
Now, Hannah said, are there really young people in Florida? Obviously, as a younger conservative, you were drawn to Florida and specifically to Governor DeSantis. What do you think? Do you think other young people are similarly drawn to him, and why do you think they are?
I mean, I think the age is obviously a big factor, but just being able to actually have legitimate energy and be able to command an audience and have a personality. I think that's the biggest thing that I would say young conservatives, at least from my perspective, are drawn to is politicians that don't just sound like robots. Like, you can tell that they're actually people. They got families. They can crack jokes. They go out and have drinks. They do whatever, after hours and have a good time. And it's relatable.
Authenticity, right?
Authenticity.
Like it.
And you've gotten the opportunity to actually hang out with the governor a little bit here and there. I mean, without getting in deep into the political thing, what's he like as a person to hang out and talk to?
He's a family man, loves sports. I mean, that he played baseball in college, right? So he still keeps up on that, loves football. His son, Mason, that kid has a cannon, okay? So they spend a lot of time playing catch together. I mean, we were at a Halloween party last week, and there's like a bounce house over here. And me and another guy are standing there talking, and then this just beautiful arced ball with a perfect smile comes out of nowhere. I'm like, who threw that? And then Mason in the little Jacksonville Jaguars hat walks out from behind, and I'm like, okay, Ronnie D, you're training this young man right.
I guess my question to you is, any loyalties now that you're in Tallahassee and Seminoles, Florida State?
They're my adopted team. I'm an adopted Knoll, but we're still Mizzou all the way. I'm never turning my back on that school. It's a great place. I got a ton of good memories there. But Florida State isn't bad either. You know what I mean? Everyone down there has been super great, welcoming. They all want to talk ball, of course. So the dream matchup is if we can somehow get a bowl game against them in Atlanta. That would be the best.
Oh, that would be interesting. Yeah,
Mizzou, cool. Florida State, Peach Bowl. I'm calling it. Let's see. We'll see if that happens.
That's certainly,
sorry, Jordan Travis.
That would be a possibility. I mean, they're both in the top 10, and of course, they lost Jordan Travis, their quarterback, who, unfortunately, that injury, Daniel, is probably going to end his collegiate career. But yeah, you're right about Florida State and the Seminoles. They've been filling Doak Campbell Stadium all season, and they've got a receiver who's going to be a first-round draft pick, Keon Coleman, that's really good. I want to ask. Oh, he's just, absolutely. Just and go up and out-leap any defender in football, as we saw in the LSU game, as you know. I want to ask you about the Florida and Governor DeSantis in terms of school choice, because I keep seeing stuff on Twitter from these teachers unions and other advocates for basically it's the teachers unions and their supporters that say that school choice will destroy or hurt public schools. How do you respond to that? You say what?
I say that it's kind of a shame, and I think we've seen this across the country, that teachers' unions very clearly have shifted their priority from students' well-being and education to their own job security and career advancement. I mean, at the end of the day, in what way, shape, or form does giving a kid and a family more options to pick an educational route that better suits them, how does that harm them? And the teachers' unions, I don't think they really have an answer for that I've heard of, other than you're going to destroy public schools and the political posturing and the fear-mongering. But I really think that it, quite frankly, just boils down to they're looking after their best interests, not the kids. And the priority in the state of Florida is the kids and the education and their future, not the job security of union members.
And the data's really bearing that out, right? So what do you know about Florida and how it stacks up next to other states?
I mean, I don't know the exact number, but I want to say it's around 400,000 choice kids that have capitalized on the voucher program. It's the largest in the country. The options for just regular students that want to go and pick whatever educational route they want to take. And then we have PEP, which is for homeschool kids, unique ability scholarships, just the whole gamut. If you're in Florida, you have the opportunity to choose where you go to school. Your family does. There's flexibility. There's competition. It's a great environment. And the results are bearing that out. We've been number one in education, higher education, and K-12 for the last 3-4 years.
Shocking. Once you start putting in those kinds of programs, you start surging in the quality of education.
I know. Who would have thought? You do the right thing, you get good results.
So that education obviously is a place where Florida's on the forefront. Good lessons for Missouri. Hopefully Missouri will adopt some of those lessons. What's coming from Missouri going to Florida and being in government? What other lessons could Missouri take from Florida that would make our state a better state?
Be bold and proactive. Take chances. I think a lot of people in the political world, we kind of get siloed off into our various lines of thinking and sit back and just kind of manage things. I think what the governor especially has been able to do in Florida is just say, I was put here for a reason. I need to enact policies that my voters want to see. And quite frankly, I mean, it works out. Like, conservative governance works. And Florida is a model of that. Missouri has been for a while. I think the scale is a little bit different, but a lot of the policies are very good. I mean, we have our own unique sets of challenges, obviously, but just being able to be pragmatic and say we're not going to do things the same old way just because we're going to try to find new solutions that fit the problems of our time and attack them head on, I think in a general sense is just the best approach that you can possibly take.
The governor down there has gotten big marks, and that's kind of an unusual state where they're very liberal, but they have a very, an age-advanced population, sort of like back home for you up here in the Midwest. And he's got some pretty good props on some of his programs for the older folks, hasn't he?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's an everyone type of approach. I mean, just make sure that we are putting people, regardless of age, in the best position to succeed. And I think that, his policies around, name your issue have borne that out. And I think he's done a really good job and helped a lot of people down there.
It just seems like every time I open a news site, someone else famous and more people are moving to Florida. Is Florida at all feeling the squeeze? I know, for example, my sister's in Nashville. When you go there, it's like the traffic and it's just a mess. Are you starting to get some of those like infrastructure pressures on just a population growth?
Less so in Tallahassee. I mean, it's a university and a state government community, so your population is pretty steady there, and it's not on the beach, right? So like people don't necessarily want to move. It's not exactly a destination that people want to come to. But that being said, I think you brought up a really good point, Stephanie. It's the infrastructure. It just takes time for things to catch up. Like, 200,000 people are going to move to a state in a year. Well, it takes more than a year to redo an entire highway or a whole system of roads and bridges. And, it's progressing. I think definitely as compared to 10 years ago, there is a little bit more crowding, but it's getting worked out. And, the state of Florida is going to continue to prosper so long as we have these policies. It's an issue that they're going to have to grapple with and figure out. And they've done a good job thus far.
And no state income tax, best thing of all.
Yes.
Well, and I think more importantly, in listening to you, Daniel, I think you can hear the confidence in the leadership, right? You have confidence that you have the people in place in your state that can deal with whatever challenges are to come. And I think that's really on the federal level what we are missing as an American people, in that we no longer have that confidence that we are either headed in the right direction or that we have the people at the top that are equipped to handle those situations. All right, we got to take a quick break, but we're coming back with the Morning Bell business news with a twist, this time with Mark Ellinger.
So Friday is Black Friday.
Day started like 2 weeks ago.
Exactly.
So there are now some new people that have decided to jump into Black Friday. First of all, the NFL has decided that they're going to play on Fridays now. That was always the day of college football. But they're not just playing games. They're partnering with Amazon because Amazon wants to. They're not content with Cyber Monday or whatever it is. They want in on Black Friday. They will be putting QR codes on the NFL games for special deals during the game that you could watch the game, snap the QR code, and get a special Amazon deal just to keep you from going to the store to their competitors. So here you go. Black Friday, the great shopping tradition, is being ruined by the NFL, shocked at that, and Amazon.
What kind of products do you think they're marketing in the middle of a football game?
They've got warehouses full of Falcons swag that nobody wants.
They're gonna really try to focus on things that people watching games are gonna have an interest for. Obviously, it's gonna be like gear, fan gear and stuff like that. They're gonna do all sorts of different tech things, TVs, because you're watching TV.
Smart.
I mean, This is a intentional shot at the big box stores. Amazon is a force to be reckoned with, and when they bought the NFL rights for Thursday night football, they don't get Thanksgiving. So the deal they cut was they get to do the game on Black Friday. First year ever.
Also,
so like Mizzou's game at the Hogs.
Yeah. Yep. So the Mizzou game will be at 1 o'clock on Friday. It's on, I think, CBS, if I remember.
I think so.
But if you want to watch the NFL, you have to watch it on Amazon because it's streamed. It's not on television. So
and
you
then
have to stream it.
Scan the QR codes. What a win for QR codes, too. I was recently having this conversation with a friend, and it was like, do you remember before COVID, like QR codes were dead? They were a boomer thing, and people you never saw them anywhere. And Mark, you and I now have them on our business cards. And during COVID, because everyone had their menus on QR codes, they just became kind of the norm. And now I actually went to a conference and people had, I think the guy had a book, and he, on his slides, he had the QR code, and he said, hey, while I'm giving my presentation, hold your phone up and buy my book on Amazon. And I thought, man, these things have really come back, and now they're going to be on the NFL games.
So the craziest thing I ever saw with the QR codes was at the last Mizzou game. There's some game they play, I think it's the Ford dealers that sponsor it. And on the Jumbotron, they put a huge QR code up, and you can snap it from your seat and play this game via the Ford website, which is just insane to me that they've come up with that technology that you can shoot it off the screen.
I know Central Bank had some QR codes at our tailgates this year.
Yep.
And you could scan something, I think, for a chance to enter to win something. So they are, I think, the real winners here is these QR codes. If you aren't using them, I like, at least it's creative. I mean, give the NFL some props for something a bit creative on the QR code front and something new.
I don't think it's the NFL, trust me. This is not the NFL, this is Amazon. They are trying to exert their control over everything, and guess what? They're succeeding.
Well, I think the real question is, will
his birth. You can celebrate Jesus' birth all year long. Number 2, eggnog, hot apple cider, hot chocolate, glorious, lovely. Number 3, Thanksgiving. So I've heard people say that you cannot celebrate Christmas, take a break for Thanksgiving, and then go back to Christmas. But I would like to remind you that Jesus was alive, took a break for 3 days, and then went back to being alive. So I'm going to start celebrating Christmas on November 1st, take a break for Thanksgiving, and then go back into it. Ho, ho, ho!
All right. For all of you Christmas lovers out there, folks who are already celebrating Christmas, whose lights are up, whose trees are up, I would like to remind you we are taking a quick break for Thanksgiving, and
a sabbatical, if you will.
Yes.
There you go.
And then you can go right back to your
in the truest sense
Christmas celebrating. But we're wishing everyone safe travels and a good weekend and a good holiday with their families. So because it's feels like Friday, Wednesday, we're going to do our winners and losers early. So if you have some nominations, get them in 573-874-9390. Tell us who has won the week, who has lost the week. I'm going to start because I've got the microphone right now. And I'm going to say...
Whoa, okay then.
I actually had a loser as the OpenAI board, but now I have to say things have changed so fast. Maybe the old OpenAI board, who's now gone, and the new OpenAI board is the winner of the week. But a lot of changes there, which we have talked about today. A local winner, the JC Parks board. Did you see the ad they put out yesterday, John? So Jefferson City Parks, I guess, is looking for a forester, and they posted this thing on Facebook, and it just has like a Bigfoot on it. And I got a kick out of it, a little chuckle yesterday, and I thought that was really nice and creative. So props to whoever made that ad.
Maybe Bigfoot will be the new Jefferson City Parks director.
There we go. I like it. All right, Mark, who's on your list?
So winners, Blair Oaks Falcons.
Ooh.
And a little bit of a surprise, I think, for people, Jefferson City Jays. Both football teams making the state semifinals. Both of them play on Saturday at 1. So we want y'all to be out there doing the small business Saturday. That's really important. But maybe take a break and cheer for the local football teams,
Find
too.
a local watering hole. And the Jeff City game will be airing on KWOS, right, John?
12:30 on Saturday with Kevin Kelly and the whole crew.
Nice.
And I'd say another winner, maybe I'm cheating here a little bit, is Microsoft. Which we talked about OpenAI, who hired Sam Altman, lost Sam Altman again, as the machinations of OpenAI go. But Microsoft stock continues to go through the roof. So if you're riding the Microsoft wave, let's roll.
All right. That I agree. It's been an interesting tech week, and I guess also on your point, NVIDIA, right? They're way up, and their reports are really good. Brian Hauswirth, we know you don't got any losers. Who are your winners for the week?
No losers, obviously, but happy Thanksgiving. I've got just 2 quick winners and then a thought. Number 1. The breakfast this morning at the Cole County prayer breakfast, I think that is a winner altogether. The Missouri Farm Bureau hosting the event, the governor talking about faith, the importance of faith, and really his message is that Cole County remains strong. Very significant for our listening area, especially the KWS listening area. That's a big deal. The governor downplayed his speech a little bit. It said it's not a speech, but it really is. It's a big deal about the Cole County doing well. And 2, I would say the troopers that are out on the roads right now, Operation Care. Please be careful, folks. They're out in many cases every 20 miles doing enforcement. You don't want to speed, especially today. They will pull you over. They're trying to protect people, and they're looking for aggressive driving as well. And just a quick thought to everyone, be thankful for what you have. There's so many people that are struggling right now. We've talked to the food bank. John's talked to the people at the Samaritan Center. Forget all the politics. People are hurting. They're having a hard time. Some are having a difficult time with their rent. Others are having a difficult time with their gas prices. Some are just having a difficult time with food. But be thankful for what you have. We are still very, very blessed, and we appreciate everybody listening to us.
Thanks, Brian. John, you got winners and losers?
I've got a winner. One of those I'm from Missouri show me deals. Jefferson City, one step closer, maybe, to our long-rumored conference center, dumping better part of $600,000 out of the parking fund to buy and tear down the old News Tribune building and open up that whole half a block there up the street from Mike Parson's house to potentially put in a conference center. Mark, I'm kind of like you. Wait and see, and we'll believe it when we see it.
What is this, the 35th consecutive attempt at a convention center?
Since the 80s.
I think it goes back even farther than that.
Yeah.
Now, well, I have a question because originally the conference center, we had all the tourism tax money. Did some of that money go to the link, or is that money still sitting around in the bank?
I think it's still in the bank account.
I think it's still sitting in a bank
lodging
account.
tax.
So the lodging tax money and the parking money will be then combined to help build this new conference center potentially.
Presumably.
Yeah. Lots of cash.
If you
Lots
were
of government tax money going here and there.
If you were a betting man, are we going to get it?
No.
And Mark, I'm going to disagree with you on this one. Which Mark and I don't disagree too often.
Ellinger v. Hauswirth.
No, he's a great guy. He's a great guy. I think this one is a little different in that this mayor is really. It strikes me that he is someone that follows through. He's hands-on. This mayor, Ron Fitzwater. He really is. And that parking garage is dilapidated. It would have to be. They'd either have to make major repairs or tear it down. And I think that's a big deal. I also think the fact they're going to purchase the News Tribune building is a big deal. So I'm going to go ahead, and Mark and I are going to disagree. I think it will happen. I don't know the time frame, but I think it will. But I think, it would literally be catty corner to the governor's mansion if this were to go through. If you look at KWS.com and 939theeagle.com, I put an article up about the governor being on our show this morning, and it's a picture of the governor's at the harvest there at Halloween. You can see the garage right behind him. That's exactly where that conference center would be. You could walk across the street.
Candidate Ellinger, you were mentioned, so you get 30 seconds to
there
respond.
You go. I was going to say, you don't get to say, like, it'll eventually happen. I mean, we will eventually get a conference center, just like we will eventually watch the sun flame out.
I understand.
So you probably ought to put some time frame on it. We will not get a convention center in downtown Jeff City in the next 5 years. Period. I will say that right now.
You willing to put $1 million bet on that?
I will put $1 million of taxpayers' money that we don't get it because we'll save it.
We're gonna have to clip that. But I do think, I would say I'm more hopeful than I've been in the past. And Brian brings up a good point. When you're talking about real estate, it's all about location. And this is, I think in the past people have said, well, maybe we'll put it out at the prison, maybe we'll put it out at the mall, maybe we'll put it over here. And people always said that's not why people come to Jeff City. They come to Jeff City to visit the Capitol, to visit the governor's mansion, to do all these things. And so I think the location is the one thing here that gives me a bit more hope.
I think the one thing we need to look at on this, and it hasn't been talked about much, is the kind of dwindling occupancy rate at Jefferson City's existing hotels and motels. Mark can relate because we've heard from some of these developers out there, and it's like, yeah, this sounds like a great deal, but if I can't fill the rooms, how do I pay the bills?
I don't remember hearing hotel as part of the conference center garage thing, which is, I was going to say, is a problem. Where do you put people? Because there's only only two hotels that are in proximity to downtown.
No, I think that's the plan that the mayor offered up was to find a developer who would build a 150 to 200 room Jefferson City hotel, 36,000 square feet of conference center, attached parking garage. It's pretty darn ambitious.
I'm glad you brought that up, John. I am adding Jefferson City CVB to my list of guests I need to secure. I know we talked to the Columbia Chamber, and when we were asking them about the impact of Mizzou's winning season, that they said, as far as hotel occupancy rates, we need to talk to the CVB. So we are adding them to our list, and hopefully we'll get there. But sticking around with us is Daniel Ellinger, in from Florida for the holiday. And I want to hear from you, Daniel. Who are your winners and losers of the week?
All right, two winners real quick. Javier Milei, conservative firebrand, just won the presidency of Argentina, country that's had the highest inflation rate in the world.
Woo.
Hopefully he's able to do a good job and save that place. Second, special shout out to my former roommate and brother, Albert Okwuegbunam, traded to the Eagles this offseason, was the pusher twice on the tush push. Sorry, Chiefs fans, but I had to shout out my boy.
and as usual, the announcers butchered Alberto's last name.
They're never going to get away from it. But, hey, those of us that know, so it was great to see it. And then loser is somewhat of a prediction as well. The University of Arkansas, I think that Missouri, we are well on our way to a win, 10-2 season, reminding them who's above them in every way. MIZ, happy Thanksgiving.
ZOU.
That's great. That's really good. The only thing I would add, Arkansas is going to be tough, but I agree, Daniel, that they'll win. If people are going to the games, the game on Friday afternoon, make sure you stop at Herman's Rib House in Fayetteville. Everybody that goes to the game goes there. That's if you can get in. if you can get in. But that'll be one of the highlights of your trip for sure.
And if you can't get in, there's always the Cracker Barrel, right? Brian?
They've got one. I know they have one in Springdale. I'm not sure about Fayetteville.
You don't carry around a map in your car, Brian, of where all the Cracker Barrels are. Come on.
Generally on interstate, so we'll see.
You can't tell where Fayetteville ends and Springdale.
They're
begins.
so close. Exactly. They're all right there.
Beaver Lake, Bentonville.
Exactly. All good stuff. But no, Daniel brings up a very, very good point. Poor Joe Buck. He had a hard time pronouncing Alberto's last name. And Aikman tried to help, and he wasn't much more successful, though.
I feel bad for those guys. That's a tough one. We'll just stick with Alberto.
Aikman was a cowboy. Give him a break.
Hey, they're going to have to learn. They're going to be calling the man's name a lot more here soon.
Yes.
All right. Hannah, we haven't gotten to you yet. Do you have winners and losers of the week?
Well, I give you guys a hard time when you get fact-checked by Wake Up family members. I think I need to take my medicine. And I was fact-checked by Wake Up family member Jim for this statement that I made regarding Taylor Swift.
Hannah, did you see things can still go wrong? I was watching the latest Argentina performance by Taylor Swift. Hannah, did you see what went wrong there?
Yes, her little wardrobe malfunction.
Yeah, she totally lost it was like a heel, but like her shoe
off of her like crystal covered Louis Vuitton boot that was knee-high length. It was not a Louis Vuitton boot. It was a, how do you say it? Louboutin?
Daniel.
Louboutin. Kristen Louboutin.
Louboutin. I'm not cultured enough to act like I know what I'm talking about on this topic, but thank you, Jim, for fact-checking me, and I even tried to argue with him because I am that clueless. But I did get it wrong.
All I'm going to say is if she was wearing Crocs, she would have never had that problem.
And she wouldn't be pulling $1 billion a year if she was on stage wearing Crocs either.
Post Malone does it.
Yeah, and I bet Travis Kelce has worn a Croc or two in his life. And if you didn't see it, Jason Kelce, who is on the list of sexiest men alive or whatever. He's not the sexiest man alive. He's just
he was a finalist.
A finalist. Yes, I got fact checked on that earlier this week. But he showed up to the game in a fit, and they had a what do you call that, Hannah? Like throwback vintage kind of jackets on, and that was really cute. But what were on his feet, Hannah?
Flip-flops, but
he showed up in flip-flops.
Good for him.
That jacket he was wearing was his.
Did he try to blame his wife though for not bringing his clothes?
But when you go into Arrowhead and you walk out with a W against the Chiefs, you're entitled to wear flip-flops.
Right?
I don't know about that.
That's fair. Right. Sorry.
The jacket that he was wearing was actually his high school Letterman jacket, so that was kind of cool.
He's so sentimental. That was a really great moment, even despite the loss. We're hoping for a win next time around. And, of course, a lot of wins this weekend for all of our Tiger fans and for our local football folks. So coming up next, we have some leftovers, some stuff we didn't get to. And that is up next on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
The story that
Roland will be sitting in today for Gary Nolan, so we hope you will stick around for that. We are doing some leftovers. Mark, what's sitting in your fridge?
Well, I got a whole bunch of stuff in my fridge because it's Thanksgiving. But no, Vivek Malik, the state treasurer, tried to get Mosher's to divest from its holdings in Chinese companies. And the Mosher's board voted not to divest out of China, our arch enemy, creating a situation where state retirees' money is invested in Chinese companies that are supporting our enemies across the world.
And just to clarify, we're not talking about the Mid-Missouri grocery store, Mosher's.
No, I'm sorry, Missouri, the state employee retirement system, Missouri State Employee Retirement System, and they divested from Russia, they've divested from Iran, they've divested. Well, I don't think North Korea has anybody business, but they won't divest from China. Go figure.
It's crazy. We went through this with previous state treasurers. I mean, gosh, back in the day of Sarah Steelman, they went through this exact same thing. It's come up with some of the investments the University of Missouri had at the time as well.
Yep.
Interesting stuff. John, what's sitting in your fridge?
Former Jefferson City Councilman Randy Halsey's passed away. He passed last Saturday. Randy was 91. I think folks knew him as a graduate, longtime supporter of Lincoln University and the visitation and funeral mass at IC Church in Jefferson City for former Councilman Halsey's next Tuesday.
All right, Mark, you said your fridge was full. What other leftovers you got?
Well, the State Troopers Association endorsed Mike Kehoe. I think Brian mentioned earlier the troopers are out on the highways, but the association's endorsed Kehoe, another law enforcement group that supports Kehoe for governor. And at the same time, the Supreme Court refused to take Jay Ashcroft's appeal on the just atrocious ballot language he wrote for the abortion IP that got slapped down by a circuit judge in Cole County, slapped down by the Western District Court of Appeals, and now slapped down by the Supreme Court. I guess political grandstanding may work good, but it doesn't get you wins in courtrooms.
He said he was dismayed. I think he might have been the only person that was dismayed that the Supreme Court didn't take his case. And we can get into that ballot title stuff, but we're kind of running out of time here. We do know what the minimum wage is going up as of January 1 for our small business owners. What's it going up to?
12 and change.
Right.
12 and change. All right. That's a lot. And maybe even going up even more, given that we have a ballot measure that's currently circulating.
Yeah, I think you said it off air, Stephanie. If you're a conservative, there is nothing being walked around on a clipboard right now that you want to sign.
I know. So I heard that if you're a conservative, we should just run a campaign, decline to sign. And I know folks have run that against the ballot before, saying vote no on everything. And people, I think conservatives overall have kind of that inclination already. We don't need to be amending our Constitution all the way. But I think based on what I know currently about what might appear on the ballot in November, I think, an organized group could get together and say, look, don't vote for any of this. I don't know has the legislature put anything on yet? I'm not sure.
I don't think anything of substance. Certainly, they're gonna try maybe IP reform. That'll fail. We're gonna get
like the governor said, he didn't look for much anything big to happen this session in an election year.
Abortion, likely there will be an abortion measure on the ballot.